So, without going too far off into the intro, we'll go ahead and talk about Loki Episode 1. Loki was probably the series, when they announced all these Disney Plus series, I wasn't super thrilled with the idea of them decanonizing the Netflix stuff, which I don't know if they fully have. I also am mixed about the Netflix stuff, because Daredevil was awesome, Jessica Jones was awesome, Luke Cage was pretty good. I thought Defenders was fine. I thought Iron Fist had possibilities. Iron Fist kind of sucked. So it's Punisher. The series wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Jon Bernthal was amazing. So the idea of decanonizing that for this Disney Plus series left me with a lot of mixed feelings. Me leaning towards not thrilled more than thrilled. But, like decanonizing Iron Fist I could live with. But now watching these Disney Plus series and, still not knowing if they're actually decanonizing those series, because it kind of feels like it's whatever Kevin Feige feels at that moment. We got WandaVision, we got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now we have Loki starting out. Of these series, I have to say Loki is the one I was probably looking forward to least when they announced him. I know Loki's a really popular character. Lots of fans were like, oh, yay, Loki. And I'm just thinking, my God, can this guy stay dead? I would love it if he just stayed fucking dead. It feels like, it felt like finally in Infinity War, they're like, yes, we're giving him a permanent death. And Thanos even said something like, no resurrections this time. And then in Endgame, here's a resurrection. And it was that's kind of frustrating to me. So I was really not looking forward to this one. However, then trailers started coming out, and the trailers were a lot of fun. I thought there's a lot of potential watching these trailers. Like, it was just going to have fun with the whole, MCU, it almost felt like. And now we have the first episode, and so far it feels like those trailers, where they're just having a lot of fun with the MCU, they're pretty accurate. It pretty much starts out like with Endgame, and you see Loki re-steal the Tesseract, and we go into the desert. He transports himself to a desert in kind of a scenario very similar to Iron Man 1, where he escapes from the cave and lands in a desert. I will say this, he's in the desert, he meets a couple of natives, and the TVA pops up, which I'll get to later, who the TVA are. But they pop up, and they take them with them. They capture them, they take them with them. What the issue I have with that scene is how bad it looks. I mean, we're talking about the MCU, and that was clearly a set. Just, oh my God, that looked so bad. I mean, obviously, I assume that's probably a scene they shot during COVID, when, they aren't going to be doing a whole lot. Their options are limited, and they can do this scene kind of self-contained. However, it looked clearly screened. It looked completely fake. So that whole scene in the desert with Loki and the TVA was not a real good start for the series for me, because I was just looking at wow, that looks so bad. However, the series does progress, and we actually get to Loki in the TVA, which I enjoy that quite a bit. That actually did something interesting, where we have Loki as they flip this villain character into an audience perspective character. So what's going on there is Loki is figuring out all this crazy environment of the TVA, and we're actually sitting right there with him. He's learning this stuff as we learn stuff. There's even a really nice little scene where where they're like, are you a robot? And he's like, no, I'm not a robot. And they're like, okay, step through. And he's like, wait, if I was a robot and didn't know it, what would happen? They're like, oh yeah, you'd liquefy. And Loki looks terrified at that moment. And it's like they're putting Loki in the audience perspective, which is kind of a clever idea that they're able to do with something like the TVA. Because the TVA, at this point, we learn is the Time Variance Authority. And Loki is dead. He's not supposed to be around, so they're capturing him to figure out. I don't know exactly why they've captured him. They kind of get to that at the end of the episode. I don't know if there's more to it than that. But then we catch up as Loki figures out this TVA area, which I enjoy quite a bit. That's one of the strengths of the episode. Goes to a weak point, which is fairly short, to a much longer, very strong point where it's like, what's going on? Oh, before I get too far, there's this really nice animated, almost an old style animated segment with a narration by Tara Strong that explains pretty much what the TVA is. That segment is absolutely worth checking out, if nothing else. Although, yeah, as you can probably guess, I'm going into spoilers here. So before you get too far, obviously I'm going to spoil this whole thing. But yeah, I would recommend just watching the episode if you just want to know if I recommend it or not. Anyways, we catch up with Owen Wilson's characters whose name is Mobius M. Mobius, apparently. And I'm sure that M in the middle probably stands for Michael. Anyways, we catch up with him, and he's investigating this murder. And obviously there's a villain, and they drop a hint. And I have to wonder if that was in the original script, or if they're just trolling us, because the hint is like, it's obvious, like a devil-like character. And it's like, oh my god. I mean, were they actually planning Mephisto, or are they trolling us? I kind of suspect they're trolling us at this point, because the Mephisto thing during WandaVision online was absolutely ridiculous. And this is why I would like a co-host to bounce ideas off of. Then for like most the second act of the episode, which you could really break this up into 3 acts. You have kind of the introduction, and then most of the second act is Mobius, aka Owen Wilson, in a room with Loki, and they're going over what exactly has happened in Loki's life, what got him to where he's at right now. The whole episode takes place pretty quickly after Battle of New York, but more accurately, it's after the Battle of New York we see at Endgame. But they're going over like the events of Loki's life. They hit upon the death of Loki's mother, which like Loki's like torn up about, and then of course eventually there's this little escape thing, and Loki finds that, and he fast forwards and he sees his own death, and that kind of traumatizes him, you can see. And it's very interesting because, like, so at the beginning of the episode, you kind of get thrown into Loki's perspective, but then during that middle part, you're thrown more into Mobius's perspective, because Loki's talking about, oh, well, you know, I'm great, I'm destined for great things, and Mobius is kind of, yeah, sure. That's not what it looks like. And then we get thrown back into Loki's perspective when he does this little escape, and then probably one of the most important moments we see during his escape is that he's going for the Tesseract, and the guy's like, oh yeah, sure, here it is. And he opens up this drawer, and it's a drawer filled with Infinity Stones. And they appear to be all depowered, but they're just sitting there. And Loki's like, these are Infinity Stones, what are you doing with them? And they're like, yeah, no, we have tons of these. We use them like paperweights. And Loki's like, just shocked by this whole thing. And that's a great way to kind of set up Phase 4, because obviously that's what we're doing here, and kind of saying, hey, these Infinity Stones don't mean much anymore. But anyways, the episode kind of ends, and we have Loki, after seeing his death, kind of traumatized by that. And then, you know, Mobius brings up, there's a reason why we have you here, and it's because we want you to catch this fugitive that he was investigating earlier, that, you know, indicated that it was the devil painting. And Loki's like, okay, why do you want me specifically? And that's when the twist comes, that the fugitive they're after is actually Loki, I assume another variant Loki, or maybe it's Mephisto disguised as Loki. Ooh. But, yeah, and the whole episode was very entertaining. This series, I'd say, started out much stronger than any of the other Disney Plus Marvel series, I'd have to say. Because I'm pretty much instantly engaged outside that poorly screened desert scene. I was pretty much instantly into the episode wanting to see where it went. As I've already talked about WandaVision, the first episode of WandaVision was just your most generic sitcom episode. It doesn't start breaking away till later. And while that series was great, that first episode, kind of boring. But although it is better on rewatch when you see clearly where it's going. As it is, it's just kind of a poor sitcom, though. And then Falcon and the Winter Soldier wasn't as... didn't really... explored ideas, but wasn't as experimental with the universe. It was more of standard, along the lines of the universe idea. So this was actually kind of a welcome change. And so in a lot of ways, it follows, like, things aren't as hidden as they are in WandaVision, but they're more engaged. Like, I feel like we're getting... like, this series is more in line with WandaVision than with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. However, it's more... like, it feels like we're starting more like episode 3 of WandaVision, where things start getting interesting. So that's a nice change. Overall, I thought this was a very good series premiere. I think I'd like to see where it goes, obviously. We're just talking about the series premiere. But I think so far this has potential to easily be the best Marvel Disney Plus series.